Week 3's here. Time to scour through them waivers and look for some wide receivers. All right, week 3 wide receiver ads. We're talking about a guy that was on my watch list last week, and he's ascended to one of my top ads of the week, and that's KJ Osborn, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver. He's the third guy in the pecking order in the passing game, but they were looking for a third guy, and they found a guy in Osborn. And you know what did I say about this guy last week? He's fast. Yeah, and he showed his speed against Arizona this last Sunday. He had 5 receptions, 91 yards, a touchdown on 6 targets. He's got 15 targets through the first 2 weeks of the season. Kirk Cousins obviously trusts this guy enough to pass him the ball, and he's shown you why, because he's got 13 targets on those, or 13 receptions on those 15 targets. That's awesome. He's been great. This guy's been awesome for Kirk Cousins. And you think about a guy who has Justin Jefferson and Thielen to compete with, but defenses are trying to take these guys away, leaving Osborn open for opportunities every week. I think this guy probably has at least a 5-6 target basement and upwards of the 9 targets that he showed in week 1. So this guy definitely has flex appeal, a guy that you can throw in your lineup during bye weeks. He's somebody that I want on my roster because he's got upside. And I think just like last year, Minnesota's going to start passing the ball more. They ran the ball a lot yesterday. And you know what? They probably had opportunities in the passing game that they passed on. They're going to see that. They're going to rely a little bit more on Kirk Cousins. I really think Osborn's going to have opportunity moving forward. And this is going to be a pretty decent passing attack. You know, you think about what Justin Jefferson did last year. I think KJ Osborn, like I said, in spot starts is going to be a great flex for your team moving forward. Another guy, Sterling Shepard, that was on my list last week. He was on a lot of people's list, but only 54.6% rostered going into week 3. Like, that is insane. 19 targets through the first 2 weeks. He's got 16 receptions, over 200 yards of production through the air, a touchdown. He's good whether it's standard or PPR. He needs to be basically owned in all leagues. This passing offense under Daniel Jones is taking a step forward so far in 2017. In his 3rd year, it's kind of a do or die year for Danny Dimes, and Sterling Shepard is a big part of that, and he's going to be a big part of that moving forward, and he's his most trusted receiver. Think about how many receivers were dropping balls on Thursday night against Washington. Not Sterling Shepard. He's reliable, and Danny knows it. He trusts this guy. He's going to continue to be used, and hopefully he can get that receiving average up to what he had in week 1 when it was just over 16 yards a reception. Another guy I really like moving forward, Bryan Edwards in Las Vegas. Hasn't shown out so far early in the season, but he's kind of taken over that Nelson Aguilar role. You know, Ruggs is there. Edwards is on the other side. Ruggs had a great week too. Edwards, oh man, he's getting work in the red zone. He's got a nice big body. I think this is going to be their red zone, one of the red zone guys. You know, Waller's never been that huge body red zone guy. And that's what I think they're going to get out of Bryan Edwards. I think moving forward, he's going to start bringing more and more appeal to that flex position. And if you get in on him right now, it's kind of beat the waiver wire with Bryan Edwards, but I think he's only going to get better moving on in the season. A guy that you are going to have to probably rush and beat everybody to on the waiver wire, and that's Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore's been awesome. 19.2% owned in ESPN leagues, so he's out there in just over 80% of leagues, and he's been great. This rookie out of Purdue has been awesome. He took a huge step forward in week 2. You know, Hopkins had the Patrick Peterson effect, so kind of took him away a little bit, and those targets, I guess, went to Moore, man. He led the team in targets. He caught 7 of his 8 targets for 114 yards, a touchdown. One of those was a big, 75-yard touchdown. It was huge. They don't beat Minnesota without Moore. He came up clutch. He might have already passed Kirk in the pecking order. And like I said, out there in just over 80% of leagues, this guy's awesome. Now, now we're talking more of my watch list. When we move on to a guy like Tim Patrick, 12.8% rostered ESPN leagues. He's found the end zone twice this year so far, but the target's only 8 on the season. And in Denver, looked like those Jerry Jeudy targets, we weren't exactly sure what they were going to do with them. Looked like they shifted over to Cortland Sutton week 1. Tim Patrick got his normal targets from week 1 to week 2. So it looks like his role was very much the same. Granted, he got in the end zone both weeks, but that is the most fluky stat in football. And I don't want to rely on that type of production from week to week. He has under 40 yards of production both through weeks 1 and week 2, and that's just not going to do it. I need a guy that's going to have a floor of at least 60 yards a week, man. Like at least 6 targets a week. Like that, the 4 targets isn't going to do it, but I like what I've seen. He's obviously very talented. The Broncos like him. They used a second round tender on him in the offseason. He is somebody they very much like, and he is going to have a role with Jerry Jeudy out, but Sutton looked pretty good. Like, he didn't look super fast, but he looked pretty damn good, and he got a lot of targets, and he did something with it. I don't see why the Broncos are going to go away from Sutton and Fant as their secondary target. So, Tim Patrick, not a guy that I'm super interested in, but is on that watch list moving forward. Another guy on the watch list, Zach Pascal, 14% rostered in ESPN leagues. He's another... same type of reason I don't like Tim Patrick. 3 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks of the season. That's awesome. But a fluky stat. 11 targets. That's good. He's right on that precipice of the 6 targets a week, but he's not doing a lot with it. He averaged 10.8 yards per reception week 1, 7.6 week 2. So he really is that possession, short area guy. He's not doing a lot of yak with it, with his catches. So he really has to get in the end zone to return dividends on your investment in him. And I just don't know if that's going to continue moving forward. Now, granted, Carson Wentz, maybe he uses this guy kind of more like you use a Dallas Goedert or a Zach Ertz, how we like to use the tight ends. But man, you can do better at wide receiver. So until I see Zach Pascal take a step forward, he's going to continue to be on my watch list. But he's somebody that I want on the watch list because I want to see what he's going to continue to do with his opportunities moving forward. And then somebody to just kind of keep your eye on, Deontay Johnson of Pittsburgh got injured in the last play of the game there on Sunday. And, if he's going to be out for any significant amount of time, that means James Washington is going to step up and take over those snaps in the third 3 wide receiver sets. James Washington, somebody that Ben Roethlisberger has fought for in the past. He likes and he will throw the ball to. He only has 2 targets, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 10 yards in the first 2 weeks of the season. But if Johnson's going to be out, there are going to be opportunities for him moving forward. So in those deep leagues where you need a warm body just to throw in the flex because you're desperate, James Washington is only owned in 0.1% of ESPN leagues. And if you see Deontay Johnson's not going to be in there, man, there you go. There's a warm body for you to throw in the flex and hope that, he gets a little bit of action. And Ben Roethlisberger throws the ball and spreads it around to his top 3 receivers. So I do believe Washington will get a little bit of action if Johnson is out for any amount of time. Please like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you check out the channel for all of my content. I will be having more ads for the running backs, for the quarterbacks. And I will also be joining Football Sunday with Mike Lynch and Rashad Taylor on 1080 The Fan here in Portland, Oregon on Sundays for their Fantasy Scramble. We answer last-minute start-sit questions. You can send in your start-sit questions. We'll answer them as a panel. You can send them in to 503-250-1080. Again, that's 503-250-1080. And you can also send in your start sit questions to my Twitter account, and that's at PDX_EFF. Make sure you stay and follow the account as well. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out my content with the ads for week 3 quarterbacks and running backs that'll be coming out as well.